Hi, my friends. I am here with you today to look at some decks that I picked up this last weekend at the Reader Studio in New York. So, if you don't know what that event is, Advent? Did I say Advent? It's an event. If you don't know what that is, it is a sort of conference workshop situation founded by the Tarot School and now run by Soultopia. And so they're now connected to sort of the Northwest Tarot Symposium and other kind of U.S. based tarot conferences. And anyway, the point is, I went there. I led a study group this year, which is like an evening kind of optional workshop. And I was asked to because there were a couple dropouts to do like one of the morning, what they call incubators, kind of a breakout session. But anyway, what's more interesting to you, I would imagine, having clicked on this video, is the decks that I picked up, which I'm going to do a couple videos about. I got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like I picked up 6 decks, which is a lot. I think the last time I went back in 2019, in the before times, I only got 1. But anyway, I want to start with the decks that are easiest to show you because a couple of them are going to require me just to do a little work with the guidebook to see what I'm looking at. And the first of the lot is, in many ways, my favorite. I love... Oh, actually, I brought this out, too. So this was a pendulum that I picked up at the Soultopia booth. And I just love... First of all, I love Tiger's Eye because I'm a Leo. Not that that matters, but it's sometimes associated with Leo, even though I guess technically that would be Lion. Anyway, I love this stone. And it has a very leonine quality. Anyway, beautiful pendulum. I love this thing. So I just wanted to show you that too. But what we're really here to look at is the Clarity Tarot by Belle Snelle, or Senle, Senlle, a deck for creative visualization. Now, it is an astonishingly beautiful deck in my humble opinion, and we're going to look at it now. I hadn't heard of this. So I got this from the Tarot Garden. I will leave their link below. The Tarot Garden does something very smart when they vend at events, which is that they bring sample decks out for you to look at. And so I was looking at a bunch of stuff, and nothing was kind of coming, and I was like, that's okay, like maybe I won't buy anything. And then just on a whim, I picked this up, and I think within 3 cards, I was purchasing it. So, here we go, the Clarity Tarot. So this is published, I think, by Watkins Publishing? Yeah, by Watkins. So it's a UK publisher. I'll just read the back. This gorgeous tarot deck is designed for the truly modern reader. Clarity reveals the heart of the traditional imagery stripped of monarchical hierarchy, I should say, binarism and ageism, to allow any reader, beginning or expert, to access new visions, reflections, and power. The borderless design allows you to create visual landscapes and to deeply understand the elements of tarot and the correspondences within them. The guidebook includes an introduction to the systems of tarot, focusing on the rules of visual language, such as symmetry, direction, repetition, and connections. Learn how to read the cards for yourself and others, including 4 suggested spreads, as well as how to activate the deck in open space. Belle Senle is an artist, tarot reader, flower herbalist, teacher, and creator. She is from Argentina, but based in London, where she works as a resident tarot practitioner for She's Lost Control and Blessed Stories. And I'll leave her website, which you can see here below, in the description. So, quite nice, very little guidebook, but really nice. I won't read it to you, but the things that the creator says here are quite nice. And I recommend just giving this a little glance. It goes through, it's very brief, very succinct, but not uninformative. And then it gets into the card meanings, and then there's some spreads in the back. I love the back of this deck so much. It is a black and white deck. Now, it's interesting that the back says it's borderless. Actually, what you're going to notice is that it's kind of got a massive border on every card. Now, I love this. It does really create openness and opportunity to sort of go into the reading in a way. So I can't imagine trimming this at all. The cardstock is thick. I'm not going to lie. I will say that I can shuffle it pretty well. The card size is large as well. I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. That's like, I don't know that I have like a normal. No, here's one. So here's something that's kind of normal, at least in terms of size. This is not, it's a thick. Publishers are. It's actually very similar cardstock. If you have this deck or to any of the Hay House decks, this is similar, but it's a little thinner and more bendable than this. But anyway, just to give you a sense, like this, it's just like a little taller. The dark background here, but much wider. Anyway, so it's larger, but I find it relatively easy to shuffle. And I have done a few times. I've also dropped it a few times, and I had a minor panic attack when I thought that I had misplaced a card. But anyway, just to give you a sense of the size, it is meaty. I'll demonstrate shuffling it for you. I can't decide if I want to do the edges or not. Like, it's a black and white deck, so like it makes sense that it's got white edges, but also I kind of like that sort of brick-like quality, but then I'm also very lazy. So let's walk through the cards. It's very, very simple, very distilled, and I love that. If you've been here before, a neutral deck is a deck that Tom Benjamin is a fan of. So there's the Fool, here's the Magician. And I just love an evocative sketch, One of my first indie decks was a deck called, I love this Emperor. I don't know why. It just looks like the back of the original Wild Unknown, but I love it. First of all, the fourness of it is very great. I love the hand-drawn quality. This is a deck that I find really, really beautiful. And I know some people may find it like too simple or not sort of expressive enough. I don't feel that way. Anyway, what was I saying? It's like a primal, as in the sense of as like getting to the prime or the essence is very cool. As a tarot card, as a drawing, I used to have this indie deck called I think it was called David's Tarot, and it was like Chinese brush painting with very simple sketch, like line art. And I loved that thing. It was printed back then. I don't know if it's still around on like index card paper, and so it wasn't very sturdy. So it didn't last. But there's some really interesting, like this Hierophant is a really interesting interpretation with the crystal ball and these stage curtains and these people sort of watching. And I actually, I don't like to look at images too closely because I like to sort of, notice things in readings. But anyway, I just find this so stunning in its simplicity. And I love the kind of negative space in the card. I love the choice to have, a black background with white images. It's just unique and expressive. And I find that really exciting. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen me showing this deck off a little bit over the past few days. And I just really love it. There isn't enough good things I can say about it. I will say I did a few readings with it and had a hard time sort of getting answers at first, and that may have been because, like in the first case, I was in the middle of a crowded ballroom at a hotel, and then I was back in my room when I was tired. But what I found is actually spending a little time with the cards and just sort of keeping them near me, I've started getting better readings, and I found actually in the little guidebook, the creator sort of suggests bonding with your cards. That's not a thing I typically do, although I will admit that I have done that with a few decks recently, and they've become my primary reading decks. I don't know that I necessarily read better with them than other decks, but they're the ones I want to reach for. So those are the majors, and then we get into the minors. Very, very simple still. And I just, again, find that so powerful. I mean, there are times where you want a lot of information. There are times where you want maybe a busy landscape. But there are times where just something as simple as these very, easy-seeming line drawings. And simplicity is a thing that is not easy to achieve. Editing anything requires a sort of ruthless essentialism. And that's not easy, particularly for creatives, because we want to add everything. So, some of these cards are kind of botanical. Some of them are a little more human. Some are more evocative than others. There are decks that this reminds me of, but I don't think any of them I have reacted to in this particular way. So the courts in this case are Apprentice as Page, Alchemist as Knight, Essence as Queen, and the Guide as King. I think I have that right. But because they're not numbered or labeled, you can sort of associate them however you want to. Apprentice makes sense for a Page, and Alchemist isn't necessarily a word I would choose for a Knight, but it's active. The essence of a card as the Queen does make sense because it's sort of the embodiment of the suit. And then the Guide, like the King, sort of shows you where you're going, shows you the feeling of the suit. So that's the Wands. Here we get into Cups. And they really are just these some of the drawings are a little chalkier than others. Some have a little more texture, but they're all just very, very simple. But I don't, sometimes you see that and it feels like they just didn't feel like doing the work. But in this case, it really does feel like a distillation of the card to me. And I find that exciting. And again, I always say, a thing I always look for in new decks are things I haven't seen before. Or things I have seen before in a new way. So, Apprentice of Fire, Water, Alchemist of Water, Essence of Water, Guide of Water. And now we get into Swords. The court changes to the element while the suit stays with the typical meaning. So it's wands or swords, but then the court cards are fire or air, for example. So here we are in Swords. These arrows. And you can see that the images are not just like meaningless sketches. You know what I mean? Like you can see in many ways a relationship between the Waite Smith image and the image you're seeing here. In many cases, in some cases, it's a little bit more of a stretch. But again, I actually, when I started, I felt kind of limited in that I could only read with Waite Smith, but people always said like, don't get decks when you're starting out that are Waite Smith or really visual. And I don't know that that's necessarily good advice. Because I think what a beginner really needs to do is build a foundational system so they can work with any deck, any deck they like. So I would say, if you're starting out, get a traditional, quote-unquote, traditional deck, but try something like this that is a little more experimental or a little more distilled and just see how it feels and experiment with it. And if you're feeling stuck, you may be relying too much on the image. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just, again, if your goal, like mine was, to be able to kind of read with any deck, if you find yourself getting stuck in the Waite Smith system, experiment. So here we are in Coins. And this is always a style that I've really just found exciting. Again, just hand-drawn. Like, it does sort of feel a little bit like the Wild Unknown in some ways, but it's very different. I love this Line of Coins card, by the way. And it's evocative. And it's, again, this creator, calls this a tool for creative visualization. So you could maybe use it even for things beyond, not even maybe, you could use it for things beyond, the typical tarot reading. So that's the deck. Now, let me show you how it shuffles, and I'll do a draw for you. Oh, the chaos. And it is, like I said, it's thick, but it's bendy, and so that wasn't a great shuffle because I'm talking about it. But, it's not the easiest deck in the world to shuffle, but it's much easier than others, for sure. So I'm going to do a few good shuffles on this because obviously it was in order, but I really just think it's... This is an easy deck to shuffle, he says, and then drops the whole thing. No, I think it is. I just, again, when I'm on camera, I tend to mess things up. And I'm not going to say it's perfect. It's not. You know what I mean? Like, I would love a little bit more of a for lack of a better word, a flimsier, situation cardstock-wise. But, this is a deck, I find with this kind of cardstock, it is going to nick and chip at the edges when you shuffle this way. If you want to only overhand, you're probably going to get nicks and stuff too, because you're going to still have to, or there's still going to be contact. I'm not concerned about a deck looking used. I'm not concerned about it bowing or anything like that. My main thing is that it's usable, and this is. I would wager it'll even break in a little bit too, as mass market decks tend to. The more you shuffle. So we'll lay this out. I guess if you wanted to trim it, you could on these back borders. I don't think you'd be cutting anything off. But I don't know. I do feel like there'd be something missing. Like that negative space feels like a choice that's part of the art. Oh, I got this bracelet there too. These are tarot bracelets from Soultopia. This is the Magician. This is the Tower, and this is Death. And I was just particularly drawn to those. I'm not a crystals person, but every once in a while. I am a pendulum person, and I've been wanting one, and I haven't really been able. I have a couple, but I've been wanting a new one, and I haven't quite been able to find what I'm looking for, and that turned out to be what I wanted. When you do big spreads, a really simple, clean image and being able to see exactly what you're looking at is also a nice thing. And so, I just find this quite beautiful. I think so evocative and handmade, and that's always exciting. It's like scrying too, in a way. It's sort of, it's like looking into a black mirror, which actually I have one right here. This is a black mirror. Needs a little dusting, but it is a piece of obsidian, I believe. On the back is this pentacle. I think this came from Madame Pamita's shop. But it's a scrying mirror. And you can sort of see how, it feels, there's the negative space is information too. If you want, let me zoom in a little bit, if you want it to be. So, yeah. Really, really gorgeous work, I think. I love this a lot. And it really was one of those situations where, I picked it up and opened the box and saw the Fool, and I was like, I need this. And I did that a few times. So this is the gorgeous and really, I think, just effective and beautiful Clarity Tarot by Belle Senley. I'm probably saying that wrong now that I think about it. I apologize for not looking at it. But yeah, I think this deck is gorgeous. I'm really, really delighted by it. I have done some readings with it. And I love it. Aside from the thickness of the cardstock, I don't think there's anything I'd change. So A+ on this, I would say the Clarity Tarot, and from Watkins Books. This I got at the Tarot Garden at the Reader Studio. You can buy it from them online or wherever books are sold, obviously. But bravo. And so I hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for some more decks that I picked up over the last weekend, and be good.